feels like home, you know? You get that feeling, you return to a spot the night before the jazz occurrence, like I'm gonna set up a sleeping bag, I'm just gonna like absorb the energy of the room before the next day. That never really happened, but returning to a comfortable and nurturing environment it's very good, very blessed.
One of the questions that you did was, how do you think art can change the world, right?
Right.
And I think you just told me.
What did I say?
mean, people can make more art, and then if other people see that, they can make more art. And then if other people see that, they can make more art, and that can go through all different continents.
That's true.
Asia,
That's true.
Australia,
Yeah.
Africa, North America,
But
South
how's
America.
how's that gonna change the world?
That could change, like, how the world thinks of art.
Well, I kind of don't ever remember not doing it. So I would say from a very early age, I kind of realized that art was my thing. I know a lot of kids don't get that until you're later on or even college and stuff like that, but all right, well, here's the story that my mom says, which is, I remember when you were a little boy, you wanted to be, she said, what do you want to be? And I said, I want to be a Play-Doh man. I was like, okay, what is it? But I think what I meant was that I was seeing like clay animation and that I really wanted to be one of those characters. And that's one of the reasons why I went into film and animation for school, after high school. So it's always sort of been my identity, which has been the guy that could paint and draw, particularly draw, a lot of cartoons. It was my way of diffusing situations too. So sort of like that was my in was, is this guy cool or not? And I would have some drawings and pass that around in class, and that would be sort of like, all right, this guy's okay. It also meant like, let's not beat this guy up because he can do that. Even though I'm not a musician per se, like playing an instrument, there's always sort of been a soundtrack to what I'm doing, but it's always been an essential form of art for me. The birth of the idea for a jazz occurrence was I wanted to do what I was doing, which was somebody invited me to paint live, and I definitely had to get my permission from Jeff Schlanger, a music witness in New York, to do that first. But once I got into it, and this is just me live painting to music, and particularly creative music, I wanted to get deeper into it, and I wanted to get closer to the music. And in a physical sense, yeah, I wanted to get in front of the band and behind the band, but really what I wanted to get is have the music be all around me and experience in that way. So I'm not just as an observer, but in a way, yeah, just being in the music. And so I realized, well, if I set up an event that people know what to expect, then it's going to be cool for me to be 5 feet away from Harrison Bankhead, painting him, like in the physical sound, like as close as I can get without being right on the bass, so that I can move my arms. I'm physically enveloped by the music, and it's cool because it's a jazz occurrence and I'm setting it up like that. And so the band knows what to expect and the audience knows what to expect too.
it seemed like almost a coup, like nobody else is doing this, especially out here. I mean, they're maybe doing it in Chicago and New York, but nobody's doing this out here. And we've had a lot of firsts in this gallery and done a lot of pretty major projects. So it seemed like one of those. And I was happy to do it. It was free. People walked into this room and there's Ari Brown and Harrison, and it was free, and they just sat in these chairs, and suddenly there's this unbelievably transformative music. And they did start out with some pretty out there stuff, and some people got up and left because it was also really loud, and music reverberates in here a lot, so it was loud and some people couldn't handle. But then as they went along, it became more what you would call accessible. And the people who were here loved it, and I heard from people the next day, they were just blown away. Because this doesn't happen in Aurora, and it really doesn't happen in very many places. And to see those artists, those musicians weren't playing together, they weren't like a band. They just came, of course, Lou kind of got them together, so you're seeing something that really is truly improv, because they just suddenly were here and they were playing, but they weren't rehearsed. It wasn't something that they do, at Orchestra Hall or something every week. So that made it unique as well.
The jazz occurrences take many different forms because they're site-specific and personnel-specific, and they tend to intervene with the audience and the people that participate in them, both the artists and everyone around.
Every experience is very different because of the audience, because of the settings, because of the venue. And I think every time we work with Lou in Jazz Occurrence or outside of Jazz Occurrence, those were very different situations.
Lou has come to sketch some of our shows, and he's sat kind of in the back, and we don't really think about him being there. And then he comes to us with his interpretation of what we've done, and it can provide some kind of new insight or like showing a kind of his take on what we did, and we can learn something from that. But during the jazz occurrence in Wheaton, he was standing right next to us, and we could see what he was doing while we were playing and vice versa. And so we had this cool opportunity to not just play at Lou and say, create, but we had this awesome opportunity to feed off of what he was doing as well and collaborate in a much more deliberate way. So we did a free improvisation in our second set of our jazz occurrence, where instead of us starting, we had Lou start sketching, and then we were trying to kind of capture what he was doing. So it's kind of a flip of the usual sketching of live music. And yeah, it just makes you think about things in a different way. It puts you in a different headspace.
These emotions, that run through our lives that we may or may not acknowledge to some degree, actually have a lot to do with our condition, our happiness, our perception, our ability to understand the world, to feel the world. And I don't think you can put everything into words, I don't think you can look everything up on the internet, I think certain things are just a feeling that you can only convey with art. With that kind of self-expression that has no filter, doesn't have to go through a process of being written down or being articulated by finding the right words.
Bebop, hard bop, funk, free jazz, gypsy jazz, what have you. Because, where does it go on the playlist? Is it the kind of thing that, you feel like going to listen to that night? And a lot of really what gives it the flavor is what happens in between the definitions, you know, and how the different styles come together. And in this music that we're talking about, a lot of it has to do with the collective consciousness of the group, you know, shared experiences, personal experiences, and then how they can come together in a new context. Of course, you know, it takes a certain amount of refinement and craft, you know, and discipline. But it's a blend of all those things: the discipline, the refinement, respect for tradition, and then keeping it in a boundary that's still cohesive.
So that first gig with Louis was crazy because I was working. I was at, you know, it was Kahil El-Zabar's Elevation show, and I was there doing the live projections, and Louis was there doing live painting. And I brought Ronan, and he'd already shown an interest in drawing and doing visual arts. And so I said, listen, this cat Louis, check him out, check out what he's doing, but don't bug him. Like, don't talk to him. And don't like try to get in his way. Just, you know, just take it easy. Like if you ask him a question, just like, you know, don't get crazy. You know, an hour later, I'm doing my thing, doing the video. My daughter comes running over. Ronan's painting. She's got his canvases. He's got his canvases and he's painting. And I'm like, what? What? And I go over there. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then there's these girls gathered around, like grown girls. And they're like, oh my God, is that your son? Wow, he's amazing. Look at what he did. And I'm like, oh no. And I looked at this piece and I was like, you know, immediately I sort of thought of Basquiat and Keith Haring, and I'm like looking at it, and then I'm like, am I just projecting? And I was like, this seems like it's really good. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is, and then Louis, who I'm apologizing to, is like, no, it's cool. Do you think he wants to come and do it again at Jazz Occurrence? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure he does, you know. But it was fun. He was trying to hustle everybody. He's trying to like, you know, sell the pieces, and he sold like what? You sold like 2 pieces.
No, I sold 1.
You sold 1? Okay.
Or I might.
The models coming over.
Yeah. He got the girls coming over. He sold a couple pieces. I think you sold 2. But it was a fun night. It was, and that was like, and he met Slang that same night, and Slang's really taken a shine to him too, and like they've hung out, and he's come to like big murals he's done, and it's good. I think, you know, Slang, I said to Slang, I was like, you gotta teach Ronan the ropes, you gotta like teach him how this business works. And he was like, nah, he already knows. I was like, all right.
Going forward, and again, this is like a kernel of knowledge I feel like I'm getting from creative music that I need to pass on. And one way to do that is not just have events that are at 10 o'clock at night in a club, but that are at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where kids can come and see that this is an opportunity for them, and this is something they can do.
I never did have any thought on what Lou was doing, what he was doing, because I know he's a master at what he does. And it's just fun. And you know, I can see that you're painting. I know I'm playing, And I'm playing off of, a lot of times I'm playing off the musicians I'm working with, and we're working collectively, and it's just, we just have this collective consciousness, this movement that we playing together.
Like in the first one, there were painters that had their works up there, there were photographers, the music was there, and all of these different mediums of artists came together, and it was really a beautiful thing because we all were able to come together in the name of art and in the name of expression. And I think when you do that, the intent behind that actually serves a much bigger goal that has something that's felt in the community. And that's one of the things that I think Jazz Occurrence is doing, is reaching out into the community and helping it out, understand these different mediums of art. And when you understand something like that, I think you understand something more about yourself and your place in the world.
There's silence in the room right now here at Constellation Chicago. And we're gonna go from that silence of 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And the buzz of 4 is gonna fill this room with sound. And I'm going to paint it.
If everybody keeps doing art, other people will keep coming because, you know, people will have babies and then art will still be there no matter what.
And the babies will grow up watching their parents make art.
Yeah.
And they will think they will think it's normal, and then they can make art. Right?
Yeah. And then it will just keep going around and around in a cycle.
Right.
Of people seeing other people working for art, doing art, and then the other person wants to do art.
I like it. I like it.
That's what you pretty much just did.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I think you're right. The focus tonight it's a good question. It's most often just going with the flow in a cliche way, but it really is about finding out what these past 9 jazz occurrences, and this being number 10, what it really means. Is there any kind of influence going on, you know? Are people picking up on it? Are people sort of understanding whatever vision there was in the beginning to see if the seed that was planted has any fruit. So I got the red pants on. Decided the first one I wore the red pants with Mars and Ari and Vincent, and I decided, even though I get a lot of business for wearing the rock and roll pants, I figure I work with John Pasden, I might as well get a little bit of rock and roll going on today. Make sense? I would like people to walk away with the sense of possibility, the sense of, that they could, they could do anything. Like, kind of like if this can happen, if these things are happening, what else could I do,
In the way that connects with a live action painting, a live experiment of painting during the band's performance goes really well, because improvisation is a huge part of what we do.
It's a very time and moment specific collaboration. It's a more casual and creative experience, so you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel that Jazz Occurrence is part of the collective continuum of the expression, the collective continuum of various expressions of how we feel about this thing we call jazz.
But this has set the bar very high. That it's not just about going from picture to picture and drinking your glass of wine and having a conversation, that actually you come up here and there's an opening and you've got to kind of shut up and listen, and that people are being very generous to come here and do what they're doing. That's giving a lot. And then it just keeps getting better.
Instead of saying, that's a nice picture and that was a nice concert, you can start to make connections between the relationship between the sounds that you heard and the art that you're seeing, because you know that they're related to each other in a really close way. And I think that is the main difference between your usual gallery and concert and what Jazz Occurrence is.
What I wanted to represent in the beginning definitely was a gathering place, it to bring together different artists of different influences and disciplines, specifically music and visual, and see what would happen if these folks got together in the same room and started talking. This is a conscious thing because I realize that I want the project to live, and I want the Jazz Occurrence vibe to continue long when I'm gone. And to do that, you have to make people feel like it's theirs. I feel like we're working on something that is that are visual documents that people get to, enjoy in their own way. And yeah, I think each Jazz Occurrence has their own flavor, and it also is, it's fun to do something that I don't know what's going to happen. You sort of get that adrenaline rush of like, wow, let's do that again.